Hey, Ozzy, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm curious, we keep seeing about the zero penalties last year, and I'm sure it's something you take a lot of pride in. How do you kind of become an offensive lineman who is so disciplined and can avoid those penalty flags?
Yeah, I think, that's something I take a lot of pride in. I think I, try to make my whole play style very disciplined overall. So, the entirety of my game, I like to think is discipline. That's kind of what I pride myself on. So, that goes the same thing with penalties. And I think, practice, just working hard, really being locked in at all times is kind of the reason for that. And that's just what I try to do throughout the entire game.
Herb Howard?
Hey, what's up, Ozzy? Welcome to Chicago, man. I
Thank
got a
you.
two-part question for you. One, what's your comfort level on playing right side versus left side? Do you have a preference?
Yeah, no, I would say, if you asked me that during the season, I would obviously say right because that's where I practiced. But as soon as the season ended, going to this level especially, you want to be as versatile as possible. So I've done a ton of work at, all positions except center. So I would just be ready to fill wherever is needed. That's the main goal, right? Get on the field as soon as possible. So that's kind of how I've focused my training these last few months, and I think I've done a good job with that. So I wouldn't have a preference at the moment.
Have the Bears given you
Emily?
any
Oh,
indication
sorry.
of where they want to play you?
No, yeah, kind of similar topic. No, nothing in specific. Again, I'm a competitor. I'm going to go out there and compete and just try and get on the field as soon as I can, and help out the team.
Go ahead, Pat.
Ozzy, you went to the same high school as your dad and the same college as your dad, right?
Yep.
What does it mean to be a draft pick like he was?
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't really sank in yet. My whole family's upstairs. They're super excited when they saw it on the TV. I got the phone call. It's really amazing. This has been my dream for as long as I can remember, since I was a kid. So now that it's kind of finally come to fruition, it's pretty surreal. Again, it hasn't really sunk in yet. I'm sure in a couple hours it'll have sunk in, but I'm super excited. Super grateful for the opportunity, and yeah, I look forward to the future.
Ryan Poles has obviously some connections there at BC. How well do you know him? Was he around at any point? What's been your dealings with him?
Yeah, I've met with him before in Indy. Yeah, and we talked about BC. That connection, it is hard not to talk about. So we had good conversations about that. And yeah, I mean, super excited to have another BC guy on staff.
John Hammond?
Hey, Ozzy, congratulations.
Thank you.
Obviously, everyone sees your size, but what would you tell people about your ability to move out there on the field and your athleticism?
Yeah, I think the size can be deceptive because you see a guy who's so big and you might think immediately, they might not be an athlete, they might not move as well. I think I do a good job, footwork wise, hand placement, sort of those athletic traits. I think I'm pretty well rounded as a player. So, and that's something that I really work on. Being taller, it doesn't all come natural to me, but putting in the work, day in, day out, I think has really helped kind of elevate my game to be well rounded.
Larry?
Congrats on being drafted by the Bears, Ozzy. I'm sorry if you answered this already. What would you say the type of player the Bears are getting? How would you kind of describe yourself to fans that don't know much about you?
Yeah, I would say I'm a competitor. So, every day show up, compete. Um, Coming into a new program, my main goal now is to just get on the field as soon as possible. I've mentioned that before. But well-rounded, disciplined player. Going to play hard, play tough, but also play smart and under control. Don't let emotions get the best of me. Try and stay, in the moment at all times, very focused and, disciplined.
Alex Shapiro? There you go,
Sorry
Alex.
about that, Ozzy. Oh, thank
Well,
you.
good.
Um, I'm wondering what went into the switch from left tackle to right tackle for you at Boston College. What were those conversations like? What led to that? Then I guess how were you able to make that transition not only from left tackle to right tackle, but you already played a little bit of inside before going outside as well. So just what went into all those position changes there?
Yeah, I think, when I was a younger guy, the first place that I started at BC was at the guard spot. So I had one start at right, one at left. And that was the same thing that I've been, keep going back to is I wanted to get on the field as soon as possible. So during practice, I showed that I could play guard, even though, I'm a taller guy. So when there was a couple guys who went down or whatever the case was, that was the first spot that opened up. So I, jumped at it and ended up, doing well there. And then the switch between left and right tackle in 2022 was when I played left tackle. We had a tough year. We had a very young offensive line, a couple injuries. And it was just a tough year for the O-line. You get 5 guys that hadn't had many starts out there together. It's not a good recipe. So moving forward, we get a new offensive line coach. He decides that something has to change. So we go back, we watch the tape. We look right versus left. We also, another key aspect of that conversation was Christian Mahogany was coming back, and he was a set in stone right guard. He was injured the year before. So my coach had mentioned to me, hey, I think if you're okay with playing right tackle, you and Christian next to each other could be, very beneficial for the team, whether it's third and short, whatever the case might be, just being able to run inside zone behind you guys, get a couple yards, just having that, combo of 2 players out there. So there was a multitude of reasons, but those are a couple.
Dan Weeder.
Ozzy, how old were you when your dad passed?
I was 3, so he passed back in 2004.
What are your, I guess, lasting memories? And obviously, you mentioned earlier just kind of carrying on the legacy. How much does that mean to you in your football journey?
Yeah, so I don't really have many memories of him myself. A lot of what I know of him is through stories from, my mom, from his buddies, from our family, people that knew him, beforehand. So I think in a way it's pretty cool because I get to form this sort of my own opinion on who he was as a man, just based on all this stuff that I'm hearing about him. So to be able to, and a lot of people, especially as I've gotten older, say I'm very similar to him from the way we walk, the way we laugh, stuff like that. So just hearing stuff like that is very cool for me. I know it's cool for my family. They all are enjoying this process and they're super stoked. They're all upstairs right now. So being able to do that is just it's a dream come true.
Last 2, Nick Moriano.
Ozzy, for people who may be unfamiliar with your game, which game would you highlight in your career to kind of go tell them to point to watch to see what kind of football player you are?
Yeah, I think, for the BC O-line in general, Florida State was one that is reflective of how us as an O-line, wanted to play every game. So we went in with a schedule. We said, we want to run the ball. We want to dominate the line of scrimmage. We want to control the time of possession. And we did that, and it was a combination of all 5 of us. We all had a really good game, but that was one that I think overall, we did a good job accomplishing our goal.
Last question, Josh Buckhalter. Oh, shoot. I didn't unmute him. Sorry. There you go, Josh.
Thank you. Hi, Ozzy. Welcome to Chicago.
Thank you.
Your head coach has a tendency to use taller tackles as pass catchers. I wonder how much experience you have catching passes and if that's something that you're willing to do, even if only early on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I played tight end. I was a thinner guy growing up. Until my junior year of high school, I was a tight end and a D end. So I do have experience, catching the ball. I made the switch back in junior year. I didn't think I would ever come back. But again, I'm trying to get on the field as soon as possible. Whatever, it might be, I'd be happy to go out there and do it. So any situation, I'd be more than happy to go out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ozzy. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate
You're good
all
to
of you.
go.